Hi, my name is Anthony McIntyre. I am the founder and CEO of the Antmound Foundation. We're located at 2424 Washington Street, Suite 103 in Waukegan, Illinois. I'm here today with Mr. David Osborne, who is the brother of Michael Osborne, who on September 5th was found unresponsive in his home. As I'm understanding it, the police department and fire department was called. They got there and he was pronounced dead. As I'm understanding it as well, the police department informed the family that they would be able to come in and view Mr. Osborne. Whatever time period went from then to the time that they were allowed to come into the room, they did. They viewed. And as I'm understanding it, the next steps are, to me, what we need clarity on. So I'll go through those in a second here. I want to first send my condolences to the entire Osborne family on behalf of the Antmound Foundation. This is a terrible thing that they've experienced, and no one should have to. Unfortunately, we're seeing that this is very common in this area. Too common. Common to the point where I think people are becoming numb to it. That has to stop. We need to get back to a point of actually caring and showing concern for our citizens and neighbors. I wanted to... We have here Mr. David Osborne, who is the brother of Michael Osborne, and I wanted to just initially, like I said, send my condolences to you, Mr. Osborne, and if you had anything you wanted to say before I pose a few questions, if you don't mind.
No, not a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. So one of the questions that I had, because there's a lot that's been out in the streets, if you will. So one of the questions I had was, when Mr. Osborne, your brother, was found, was he moved at all?
Yes.
Okay. Was he moved with the permission of the law enforcement people who were present?
No.
Okay. Once he was moved, or should I say before he was moved, had law enforcement gotten to him yet?
No.
Okay, so by the time law enforcement got there, he had already been moved, and so once they did come, they were then coming into the room to check his condition.
Yes.
And they confirmed that he had passed.
Correct.
And this would have been both the police department and the fire department, or do you know if it was one or the other?
Both.
Both the police department, Waukegan Police Department, Waukegan Fire Department.
Yes.
Okay. And at that point, when they made that determination, the next step would have been for the coroner to be called. Was the coroner called?
No. The coroner was never called.
Do you know why?
No. The officer told me I wasn't calling the coroner and to contact the funeral home, that I was going to do a service through to come and get him.
So the officer, you don't know his name?
No.
Okay. So the officer told you, the officer did not call the coroner. The officer actually advised you to call the funeral home.
Yes.
That's interesting in itself. Typically, in a situation like this, until one is able to know for sure how someone has passed, the coroner is one of the first calls, and they're the ones who're supposed to determine cause of death. And you're saying that process was skipped?
Yes, it was. The assumption was made that he died from a fall, and that was it. They even came in and took pictures, and after they took their pictures, they allowed people to come in the room.
They allowed people to come into the room? You mean family members?
Yes, whoever was there.
Okay. So we find out later, once the funeral home came and picked him up, we find out later, after the funeral home was preparing the body, that in actuality he did not die as a result of falling and hitting his head.
Yes, they noticed a bullet hole in his head. So then they contacted the coroner and the police department the next day.
The funeral home found that he had a gunshot to the head, and they contacted.
Yes.
And then the coroner came, of course, and
Picked him up from the funeral home and took him downtown.
And did you get word that the cause of death had been changed?
Yes.
And where did you get that information from?
From the police department, because after the funeral home contacted the coroner and the police department, all the detectives came back out to the house to make it a crime scene.
And at the crime scene, the same crime scene that he was found, what did they find as in the form of evidence?
They found a bullet in the bathroom window, and they found 2 casings outside. So one of them had to hit him and hit him in the head. Another casing hit the bathroom window. Other bullet hit the bathroom window.
And was this hole in the window small, or do you think it was readily visible when they were there before?
No, it was visible.
But they actually, when they came the first time, they didn't view this as something to investigate, I suppose. They just made an assumption.
Yes.
So I've been involved in the criminal justice system for a long time. I've seen, I think every year you get to a point where you want to say that you've seen it all. I know I've never seen or heard of anything like this before. There's a fear that exists from some of the people I've spoken to, especially individuals who've been through the criminal justice system, that if and or when the police department finds who is the culprit in this situation, because this looks to be intentional, I take it, correct?
Yes.
So at the point that they do find that person, the process of a conviction is going to come as a result of a number of factors, and one of those being they're going to comb the crime scene and seek out evidence that would help the police in receiving the prosecution and getting a conviction. And the fact that this crime scene was altered in the way it was because family members proceeded to clean the area when everything was gone. Is that right?
Yes.
And yeah, so that would be a potential problem, at a later date. And hopefully the police are able to find evidence outside of that space that would allow them to get a conviction. That's the hope. But the fear is that because of the way in which this whole situation was handled, it could actually complicate a potential prosecution. Would you agree?
Yes. 100%.
What do you believe should have been done differently in this situation, if anything?
I believe that nobody should have been allowed in the room. Nobody should have been allowed in the house. That they should have investigated that room completely. The fact that he had medication on the dresser tells them right there that they should have went farther than what they went by just checking his pulse. And the amount of blood that was there couldn't be just from a gash from a dresser. It was too much blood in that room. Where they found him, where they laid him on the bed, just too much. I didn't believe it then, I don't believe it now, that that was from no dresser.
Did the evidence match that? I mean, was there any blood on the dresser?
No, it wasn't. There was blood on the floor, where he was slumped over at, I guess, but no.
I think I want to ask, because I think what sometimes is lost in these situations, the public at large doesn't know your brother. What would you like people to know about your brother?
Well, my brother was a small person in stature. He wasn't in the best of health, but he was the type of person that would always try to do something for somebody else, no matter what. He'd go out to these pantries, get food just to give it away. You know, he had a real tender heart, good man. You know, he liked to drink his little beer and smoke his cigarettes. But they played dominoes and Jim Romy, you know, but that was pretty much it. He wasn't a troublemaker, you know, he was a real good guy.
I see in some of the conversations that we have, you know, surrounding this work that the foundation does, we have, you know, two departments within the foundation, one of them being the Criminal Justice Rehabilitation Department. And in that space, you come across victims and family members of victims all the time. And one of the things that I see with people of color is that in many cases, there is an undertone of, well, he was just this, or he was just that. He was, and the gist is, he was just a gang member. He was just a criminal, you know, and he was just a alcoholic or a drug addict. And all of those things, the common denominator typically is he was just a black man. And I think that people lose sight of the fact that, for one, every race has good and bad. You know, people shouldn't make it about that. But for two, when all is said and done, jumping the gun and making the assumption the way people do sometimes, it insinuates that the person deserved it. And to me, especially in a situation like this is a man minding his own business, sitting on the edge of his bed is what it sounds like to me. And this is what he has to deal with. And that's a horrible situation, and I think everybody should be able to recognize that fact. He did not deserve this. The family did not deserve it. And my hope is that the police department will properly investigate and get to the bottom of it. And my hope also is that the city of Waukegan would do anything and everything to correct some of these things that went on. We find out that there's yet another situation not associated with you, whereby someone else was, you know, seeking help, knocks on a door, and when the EMS gets to him, he's treated for low blood sugar, and come to find out when he got to the hospital, he too was shot. So I'm not certain where the errors are, whether it be the policies and procedures within the EMSs and or the police department as to how they are checking people out when they are called to these scenes. But something clearly needs to be done. Have you heard from the mayor's office?
No.
So no one from Mayor Taylor's administration has reached out to you to say anything to you?
No, only Chief Navarro.
So Chief Navarro is speaking to you. I've spoken to you, Chief Navarro from the police department.
Yes.
And how did that conversation go?
He called me yesterday and gave his condolences and said they got some good leads and they working on it, and that they made some mistakes, and they're gonna correct those mistakes so they don't happen again. And it's an ongoing investigation, and they close to getting it solved.
Mm. Well, that's this yesterday was what date? The 19th? What was yesterday's date? This happened on the 5th, and you heard from him on the 19th, and today's the 21st. I suppose I can't argue with it, right? You did hear from somebody from the police department. That's not bad. You heard from them, sounds like weeks later.
2 weeks.
2 weeks later. Chief Navarro, I've dealt with him a few times, and what I've seen from him is that he appears to be a man of his word. So if he says that he's going to look into it, then that's a great thing. The question that I would put on the table is he looking into all of it, right? Not just
Correct.
the part of, the murder, but also everything surrounding it. Did you get an acknowledgement that he was looking into all aspects of it?
He told me that they've made some changes so that it doesn't happen again.
Did he inform you as to what those changes
No.
were? Mm. And you haven't heard from anyone from the fire department, which is where the EMSs are attached to?
I haven't heard from anyone.
Okay. What do you believe accountability looks like?
I believe they all played a part in it. I feel that they wasn't responsible, that they just assumed that this person is dead, we can move on, without understanding that that person was a real person, and he meant a lot to a lot of people, and he deserved correct justice.
Okay. Well, my hope is that as a result of this now, because a conversation I was having recently, the point was made that, nobody's acting up from the family, right? Because it seems, again, to be the expectation that, black folks only know how to just get loud and scream and yell. You guys have showed great patience and discipline in this situation, and as far as I can tell, the reason for that in part is you were more focused on your family as opposed to, putting on a show. It's not about a show. It's about ensuring as best you can that this doesn't happen to anyone else, I'm
Correct.
sure. And to me, that is a very important thing, and the grace by which you guys are dealing with this is admirable. I definitely commend you on it. I think it's a lesson for just anyone else that's going through things that, he who talks the loudest is not always going to be heard.
Right.
Sometimes you just need to be effective in what you're trying to do. So I wanted to make sure to give this opportunity to you. This is not a situation where we are trying to exploit you guys' pain. This is simply a situation where we were reached out to because somebody respects the work that we do in the community, and we want to make sure that we just continue that process to give everyone in the community an opportunity to be heard. And sometimes you need a platform, and sometimes people to get out in front and sort of push on your behalf, and that's what we're trying to do. So did you have anything else that you wanted to put out to the masses so that everybody can understand everything that you want them to know?
Just be patient. Let the system handle it, and we're going to see how it goes. And if it doesn't go right, we'll go another route.
And you haven't heard from the state's attorney's office? I meant to say that. You haven't heard from the state's attorney's office? Or?
Nobody but Chief Navarro yesterday.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you, sir, for coming here. As you said, we'll see what the next step is, and my hope and prayer is that you and your family will have an opportunity to properly grieve and heal and, move on and recognize that there are many of you that are still here. You have to just move on. So our prayers are with you and your family, and wish you the full best.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.